at the Waste Lab here in Kohler, we make the products by hand. So that it is an American product. It is a handcrafted product. And there is a finite amount. And I think when you're dealing with luxury products, that might be a little more of an asset than a liability. We want to start with material that would have been recycled, because if it was going to be recycled anyways, then it already has a use that it's going to go back into. We want to pick out things that is going to the landfill, and we're diverting it so that it could be put into people's homes. I think business is going to have to go this direction, right? Because there's only so many resources we have. We're not doing ourselves a service in terms of efficiency if we're not using materials to the full extent that they can be used.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Neutral Podcast. Today we're in the exciting town of Kohler, and we're here at WasteLAB, where we're buying some products for a few of our projects actually. And I have the pleasure of speaking with Matt.
Great to be here. Happy to be here.
Thanks for coming on.
Of course.
And we're going to talk today a lot about what WasteLAB is, Kohler in general, and then how Neutral is partnering with you guys.
Absolutely.
But maybe to start off, just give us a little background for someone who doesn't know the big brand of Kohler.
Yeah.
What Kohler is, and then what WasteLAB is.
Sure. And that might be hard to find, but Kohler has been around for over 150 years. It started out in 1883 with John Michael Kohler, starting a farming equipment business, and taking a horse trough, putting 4 legs on it, and calling that a bathtub, right? And to me, what that really speaks to is that Kohler was founded with the idea of innovation, right? And that is a through line for all of Kohler's history, and that all the way to today with WasteLAB as well. WasteLAB started a lot more recently, started in 2014 with an idea and a conversation about where's our waste going and what can we do with it, right? And no pretense, no formed idea, just saying, what can we do with our waste? And it took several years. It took another 5 years for a group of people getting together on their lunch breaks after work, when they had a few extra spare minutes just to experiment with the materials that we had around campus. And they were documenting it and figuring out what the properties were and what happens if they heated it up, what happens if they combined it together. And in 2019, that led to the launch of the Crackle line from WasteLAB. And that was in coordination with Ann Sachs. So Kohler owns Ann Sachs, which is a tile manufacturer and distributor. And the Crackle line came out in 2019. And then a couple years later, we came out with our Abstra line as well. And within the past couple years, we've launched 2 more tile lines and now a sink as well. And really what we start each project with is, how can we make a product with 100% waste? And we never quite get fully there, but we get pretty close. If you look at our tile bodies, they are 100% waste from our pottery here in Kohler, Wisconsin. So we want to challenge ourselves to think about waste as a material. And we want to challenge the rest of the business, the kitchen and bath business, elsewhere, to think about how can waste be a material set? How can we integrate it into our products? And how can we prevent waste from getting into the landfill? So kind of a neat mind shift in terms of looking at the world. And I'm grateful that I get the chance to come to Kohler, Wisconsin every single day and kind of work through that thought experiment with people who are excited about it, with people who enjoy the job that they do, and who want to make a difference. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's really interesting. And what's your more personal journey into WasteLAB?
Sure. Well, I've taken a few different turns throughout my my career, but I started out in finance. I went to school for finance. And worked at a different company for about 7 years or so, and then came to Kohler and worked in supply chain. So I did supply and demand planning globally. So I actually was fortunate to be able to work in Thailand for a couple years at a plant there. I lived on campus
Wow.
in a townhouse with my wife. And I got to do the supply planning for over 150 countries. And it was really just a central point for distribution for our vitreous globally. And I learned a lot. And then I spent a year in Shanghai doing some regional, so still within Asia, Thailand, as well as China, Indonesia, and really honing my skills with the regional planning. And then came back to the United States after COVID and did the supply planning for our sanitary business. So I was supply chain. As far as Kohler knew, I was a supply chain person with a finance background. And then I came across this opportunity with WasteLAB, and I read a job description, and I wasn't really looking for anything, but I knew I wanted to learn more about it. I didn't even think it would lead to a job, but I found out who people who were on the hiring committee and basically said, I don't know everything about this, but I know that I would really regret it if I didn't get to be a part of this in some capacity. So I think you've already chosen someone, or I think you've already looked through stuff, but here's my resume. Here's what I can do. I know I'm dedicated, and I know I'm passionate about the work that I do, and I know that I work well with people who are passionate as well. And and later that afternoon, I was sitting with Laura Kohler, and she was asking me questions. So really came unexpected, but I'm grateful. So that was at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023 is when I started at WasteLAB, and now here we are in 2025, and really my goal was to transform WasteLAB from a concept and really great products into a business unit, right? We need to have a short-term plan, a medium-term plan, a long-term plan. We need to build a roadmap. We need to understand our operations and understand what our limitations are and what our strengths are and play into those so that we can make the right commercial decisions. So really, when I come into any kind of group, the first thing I want to do is learn and listen, right? So I learned a lot and listened a lot, and then rolled up my sleeves and said, let's start building a plan for scaling the tile operation. And once we felt like we got to a point where we knew we had a lot more to go, but that we were on the right path, we also started to explore new categories. And that's how we wound up coming out with the WasteLAB Box.
So as far as the tile goes, I know when we were here at the end of 2023, you and Laura were kind of like, hey, we're not really sure if we're going to be able to supply for your project in Madison on time.
Yeah.
But maybe in a year or two, we might be able to.
Yeah.
But you guys came through, which was great. So how do you get there? How did you get the supply chain up and running?
Yeah. And I would say that looking backwards, it seems easy, but I know going through it, it's a challenge. And really what it is rolling up the sleeves, everyone rolling up their sleeves and communicating a plan and a vision and saying, hey, here's where we want to go. And here's how we're going to try and do it. If it works, great, you can keep moving. If you need to adjust, then you adjust. But making sure that the team has a clear idea on what the game plan is, making sure that they understand the vision, and then coming in, day out, and not giving up, right? Which might sound cliche, but we're dealing with waste for our material set, which again is a huge part of our story, but it also means that there's some inconsistencies. It means that there's changes, right? If the origin point uses slightly different material. So we're constantly adapting and we're constantly learning. So having a team that is passionate about what they do, it makes them more resilient, and that resiliency allows us to show up every day and be a little bit better. When you came and visited us at the end of 2023, we had just opened our new facility. We more than doubled the amount of people we have working there. We brought on a lot more equipment to reduce some of our manual handling, even though it is still a handcrafted product.
Yeah.
And since then, we've also, added the lavatory production line too. So it's persistence, and then it's also and communication, and then also making sure you're lining up the right resources. You're not over-investing, you're not under-investing. You're giving enough fuel for the fire to keep going.
Let me ask you about that as far as like the resources that you're getting, because I think we talked about it briefly in the intro, but behind us we have some of the constituent elements that you guys are using, which is really cool.
Yep.
But they all come from the product lines of some of your more mass manufactured products here in Kohler, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And so from the WasteLAB perspective, you have all these orders coming in from customers, but you have somewhat of an unpredictable material chain.
Sure.
Because it's waste, as you said. So it's like, how do you predict waste?
Yeah. Well, you have to be strategic about it, right? And you have to have redundancies. So we have two types of material that go into our tile body. We have green coal and we have filter cake. The reason why we moved, and this is filter cake right here.
Yeah, go ahead and grab that, and you can show it to the camera.
Yeah, this is filter cake right here. And filter cake is a lot of slip and glaze and everything else that's run off into the drains of our pottery. And we drain it into a giant pool underneath in the sub-basement of the pottery. And it pools there for a while, and then we take it every couple weeks through these giant filters. There's some 40 filters that we run the water through, and it captures the sediment. That sediment is the filter cake. It starts out wet and kind of like molding clay, and we dry it out over a couple weeks, and then we can then take this material, grind it up into a powder, and then use it as a tile body. So this came out of necessity because we were running out of some of the green coal in our pottery. So now we can use one or the other or both together. And that's the kind of resiliency and sustainability that comes out of necessity, because we can't just go to the store and buy more waste. Right. We are relying upon it. So definitely redundancy and innovation, and also not being afraid to think into the future and forecast and say, all right, we're going to need more. Let's make sure we have several months of material too. And
is there a predictable supply chain now that you have in place, that you guys have been up and running, that you can accurately predict within 10-15% how much waste is coming off these different lines in Kohler?
So yes, we do have a pretty good idea. And the other thing that works to our advantage is we still are relatively small, right? So the operations that we're pulling from are a lot larger, so we have more than enough material to handle that.
On a percentage basis, how much of the waste that Kohler's producing would you say WasteLAB is utilizing for their product?
Very, 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 very small. So I would say under 1% at this point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That being said, because we're in Kohler, Wisconsin, Kohler's not the largest manufacturing site by any means across our company.
But just the material you're getting from Kohler, Wisconsin, is it more than 1% that you guys are using in just these factories? Because I know you have factories in all over the world.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you look at holistically, it's probably diminishing the amount that you're using.
Right. I would even say it probably under that for Kohler, Wisconsin, because there are some streams that we just haven't even delved into. Right. So and you could either, you could be discouraged by that. I'm really encouraged by that, because I think that just means we have a lot more runway. And as we scale and start to have more sales and customers start to understand what we're doing, and they get interested, we're going to be able to continue to grow the operation and get to a point where we're a consistently large part of it. So
yeah, I think I would be encouraged by that because it's like the one, I think, issue I would see with this whole concept is that you hit a ceiling with the amount of waste that you actually produce.
Yeah.
Where now you're a supply and demand guy.
Yeah.
Like economics, you get to a point where your demand is great because you've really done a great job marketing this. People want to use, and I believe like people want to use the more sustainable material.
Absolutely.
If the cost parity is almost in equilibrium.
Yeah.
And so it's like people are probably going to choose WasteLAB over a traditional Kohler sink.
Right.
If the cost parity is roughly in the same order of magnitude.
Sure.
But if you only have a certain amount that you can utilize because you only have this amount of waste, it's like, well, now WasteLab's going to hit a ceiling. But it sounds like you're not even remotely close to that.
Yeah, we're not close to that. And I do think that there is an element of, specialness that comes with that, right? So a lot of our products are differentiated in the marketplace because they have a finish that is unique as well. So if you look at our crackle tile, if you look at our WasteLAB Vox, no two are alike, right? And that gives the customer something that no one else has. And the fact that really here in Kohler, at the WasteLAB here in Kohler, we make the products by hand, right? So that it is an American product. It is a handcrafted product. It is a uniquely appearing product, and there is a finite amount. And I think when you're dealing with luxury products, that might be a little more of an asset than a liability.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why we love using it because it's like we know every single sink that we put into one of our residential units is different. And so it's like it's a really actually cool sales point and feature that we have instead of a fluke. Just going back into the material discussion that we were talking about earlier. So can you just break down for us like the few different groups of materials you are using and where those are coming from within the Kohler factories? Absolutely.
So I really bucketed into now 3 large groups. One is our pottery waste. The other is our foundry waste for our cast iron. And the newest one would be our Vicrel waste. So pottery is gonna be our tile body and our glaze. The foundry will be our colorant for the glaze. So we have an amber color that comes from slag from our foundry. Basically all the inconsistencies that come off of the cast iron when they're pouring it gets scraped off, and we wind up grinding that up into a commercial pepper mill, basically. And then using that, it actually creates this toasted kind of color on the glaze. And then we also use foundry dust and foundry sand. So this comes from the foundry and it's pulled straight out of the air in our foundry. And this is actually the colorant for our WasteLAB Vox, the lab.
That's for the sink.
Yeah, that's for the sink.
Okay, that's cool. So the sink we're using at 517 West Main by Neutral.
That's right.
That is where the coloring is coming from.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
So, and it's from that, and it's also from fired vitreous coal. It's just those 2 ingredients combined with a binder, and that's where you see the sediment kind of fall in different places and create a granite kind of look. It's crushed vitreous coal and the foundry dust.
And so the foundry dust, that's basically coming from in the foundry. Mm-hmm. They're using cast iron to, I think, do most of the tubs and
tubs
toilets
and sinks.
And sinks. Okay.
And some trays too.
Okay. And then basically during that process, naturally you just have this kind of dust in the air.
Well, so there's these huge filters that pull it straight out of the air. So there's about 4 tons or so that we pull out of the air every single day.
Every day.
Yeah. And thank goodness we do, right? Because otherwise we'd be breathing that in. So we pull out a significant amount of that dust every single day. and there's not really much you can do with it, right? But so we found it's used as a colorant, and yes, it's been wonderful.
What was Kohler doing with the dust before you guys were using it at WasteLAB?
Yeah, in a lot of cases, it was just going to the landfill.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
A lot of our plants tried to find projects that roads or other things that might be, it could be used for, but that usually winds up being inconsistent. So the majority of it was going to the landfill.
And is that the case for a lot of these materials that we're using at WasteLAB? Is most of them, if they were not used for these secondary products at WasteLAB, they would otherwise be just going to the landfill?
Yeah, that's our whole premise, right? We want to start with material that would have been recycled, because if it was going to be recycled anyways, then that's great, but it already has a use that it's going to go back into. We want to pick out things that is going to the landfill, and we're diverting it so that it could be put into people's homes. And to me, that's another beautiful aspect about our products, is it takes something mundane and dull, and it actually makes it something beautiful and bright and vibrant, which is a lot of the color schemes for our tile. And you wouldn't think it looking at the waste streams. But once you heat things up, or once you kind of apply it in a certain way, it can be something that really pops out at you and grabs your attention.
Yeah. I mean, that's also our thesis at Neutral. It's like, how do we use materials that are more regenerative in nature?
Yep.
And instead of, which recycling is great. It's like, we're not against recycling at all.
Right.
But it's like, this is a whole nother layer, because you can't recycle this material.
Mm-hmm.
So it otherwise would be going to the landfill.
Yeah.
And it's like, now instead of having it go to the landfill, you're essentially able to get a second life.
Yeah.
Or really a first life out of this material that otherwise would never have been used.
Yeah.
Because it was a byproduct.
And really, I think business is going to have to go this direction, right? Because there's only so many resources we have. So if we're not doing ourselves a service in terms of efficiency, if we're not using materials to the full extent that they can be used, right? And as we use more material, waste streams will become more valuable in the marketplace and in manufacturing. So, I think Kohler in the long term is at an advantage, because we're starting this early, and we want to become we want to continue to be the best at it, right? How can we use material in a creative way, and we have the whole business thinking of it kind of that way, because WasteLAB's a great story, and there's a constant influx of people with ideas that we could run with, and they get excited about it. So really, any way that we can start rethinking material and using something that's going to go to the dump, that's where we want to start.
Yeah, I've been reading this book I bet you would like. It's called Small is Beautiful, and it's about environmental economics.
I'll check it out.
And it talks about this idea a lot, and it talks about how like civilizations in the past have basically utilized our natural resources to the point where we have this like desolate land.
Yeah.
And so you see like civilizations that move and keep moving and keep moving, and basically always get to the same point with the land where it's like, it's basically they've used every single natural resource possible. And so they have to move, because otherwise they won't be able to survive.
Yeah.
And it's like the book argues, which is really interesting, about how we're not able to move because it's like we've now populated the entire planet. And so it's like we either need to get smart with our natural resources and natural capital, or we're going to end up in however many decades from now with no natural resources.
Is this an optimistic book, or is
it's somewhat existential?
Okay, all right.
So there's parts of it where it's like, and
so
and
read it with a glass of wine or something.
Yes,
like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, or a whiskey, or something when you're like, okay, I'm in a bad maybe bad mood and want to read something more entertaining. But it's something that's like, I think very also practical from Neutral and WasteLAB's perspective.
Sure.
Because it's like, instead of us getting to the point of basically complete existentialism, we're able to adjust and maybe tweak some of these processes to use the waste that we have. It's like, and the beautiful thing here is we're getting a wonderful sink right behind me. We're getting awesome tile right behind you. Yeah. It's like we're not deteriorating the product at all. Right. We're just having to change some of the mechanisms to be able to utilize, to be able to use these sinks instead of traditional sinks, or those tiles instead of, traditional and Saks tiles, for example.
Right. And I'll go one step further. I'll even propose that we're elevating, right, the categories too with what we're doing. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we walked downstairs and saw the process, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's a few people down there really handcrafting this stuff. Is that the same process that Kohler follows for their larger production facilities? Or do you feel like with WasteLAB, because it's kind of micro production scales right now, it's bringing this kind of like half hand craftsmanship back into the production line?
I would say for better and worse, it is not the same as our large scale production. So it'd be nice if we could just crank it out on a larger technology, but that's just not where we are right now. Right, we're still in the learning process. You had a chance to meet Truman Scheibel. He's our supervisor down there for labs, and he has a great story because he started out as a development tech, just learning about the material, playing with it, helping us get up and running with our labs. And now he's the laboratory supervisor down there. And he's making adjustments to our process every week. We have a Monday morning meeting. He comes in and he's talking about something that he's doing slightly different or a lot different in the process. And that's helping our production numbers go up more and more. We also have a new operations manager who's been really, really improving our efficiency in the pottery, and we just had a record production month last month for our tile.
Wow!
So everyone's kind of focused on. Everyone's not okay with where we are now. They want to continue to make it better, and so the processes aren't where they need to be long-term, but they are improving. And we definitely borrow where we can from our larger production. And in some cases, it doesn't work just because the material doesn't fit those processes.
And is the goal to kind of get to that larger production scale where your other lines are at?
Absolutely. Right.
Okay.
And so part of it's proving out that the economics make sense, making sure that we have enough market demand for it. And again, that's the balance between demand and supply and your resources.
Yeah.
So that is a constant conversation. And as we're looking to do more products and new products in different categories, we're constantly having a conversation about scale and when is it the right time to go into a new set of technologies, and when is it the right time to leverage what the technologies that we have. I think that's going to continue to be a challenge, but we want to swing for the fences.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of doing it the right way and being methodical about it, and continuing to build interest in the marketplace, and so they can understand what we're trying to do.
And so, like, I know you guys are scaling up the sink line and the tile line, which we're using at 517, and then we're also looking at using at our big project in Milwaukee, right downtown. Outside of those two products, what else are you exploring outside of what we just talked about, which is the new little planter for our gift for residents?
So planters is another place. And honestly, I can't take credit for our planters. In fact, our head of design, Monty Stauffer, who's been with the WasteLAB from the very beginning, back in 2014 when they were brainstorming about this and using their lunch hours to kind of work on stuff, Monty was one of those people. And he's got an amazing story here at Kohler for over 20 years. And Monty was adamant that we try planters, and I was pretty adamant that we should not. And but he was persistent, and he kept kind of explaining to me different reasons why it would be beneficial and how it could help us learn things. And really what sold me is these are going to be large planters, Matt, is what he told me. I said, okay. He's like, he said, we'll be able to understand how we can mold it for large materials or this larger footprint. And, if we want to do something else in the kitchen space, this could be that first foray into it. So we built these really large planters, and I was enamored. Right when I saw it, I said, okay, let's make another mold. Let's see how we can start to do this. So he, for that, I think that we definitely have a roadmap, right, for what we want to do within the categories that we're in, and we have new categories that we'd like to jump into. It's just a matter of developing and staying focused on a handful of projects, making sure that we're doing those really successfully along with our operations. And I'm a big advocate for forcing the entire team to sit in a room and have a conversation about what's going on. Whether it's our marketing team or our sales team or our operations or our development team, they all have to understand what the other people are complaining about and how they impact each other. Because if we're talking about going into a new category, then everyone has to be lined up along the way to jump into that. So I'm a huge advocate for communication, internally, externally, cross-functionally, you name it. That's a long way of not answering your question on all the categories.
No, that's okay. No, but it sounds like kitchen fixtures, bath fixtures, maybe a bathtub standalone.
Who knows?
Would be sweet.
Yeah.
And then you are doing planners, but it sounds like you kind of want to scale up.
Outdoor space is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a lot of room in the outdoor space, and we do want to learn about that category and that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea. I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but doing some sort of like outdoor tile.
Yeah.
For us to be able to use, like, I'm just thinking right now, we have this really beautiful deck.
Yeah.
In one of our projects in Madison, where it's a bunch of like outdoor gardens, and we have vegetables and tomato gardens on it.
Okay.
And the deck is like basically concrete.
Yeah.
And it's like obviously concrete's kind of against our ethos.
Yeah.
And so we had to bring in Ipe, which is wood, Ipe wood.
Okay.
And so concrete we just had to use for the walking areas because it's high traffic, and then everything else is Ipe. But it'd be awesome if we could figure out something from WasteLAB.
Yeah. That's
basically completely material that would be otherwise going to the landfill.
Yeah.
To use instead of that concrete tile. So I think that would be a really interesting application and a great story to tell, because it's like, especially with that piece specifically, like that is so much benefit for us from replacing it with something that's a high carbon intensity material to this really great story that's a beautiful material that's from a landfill essentially.
Yeah. Well, and I think you have a great platform too, right? Where you're trying to approach it sustainably, and you're storytelling with it too, right? You're convincing the people who are living in it, you're convincing the people who come and visit them, that you can do all these amazing things and not use minimal material that has the kind of negative impacts we're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. I think there's definitely some testing we could do, and we're always looking for partners for prototypes to test prototypes for us. So
cool.
We'll see what we can do.
All right. Maybe we can try some.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. This was a great dialogue.
I appreciate the opportunity. I love talking about WasteLAB. I love coming to work every day and getting to get my hands dirty and work with these amazing people who are passionate about it. And I've loved getting to build a relationship with you and your team. It's really exciting what you're doing. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to grow with you guys.
Thanks. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, appreciate it, Nate.